that would diminish our usefulness to others. See, out there in treatment land, there's a whole idea that sort of seems to have come around over the last 5 years or whatever. I do. It's this whole thing about I got to get my needs met. You ever heard that? See, that's what's really important, is that I get my needs met. See, and I don't know how to do that, so I got to learn how to do that. See, so now I'm going to set boundaries and draw lines in the sand and put chips on my shoulder. See, and I'm not going to be a wimp and a doormat, and I'm going to be assertive, and I'm going to demand things of people that I never demanded before, and I'm going to do this. See, and it's all this self-willed thing. See, it's coming totally out of me. See, and how my day is going. See, and this is totally the opposite. See, how am I doing? Well, I may be doing good, I may be doing bad, so what? I can still do this, regardless of what my day is like. Big deal if I feel bad. So what? I can still be of service. I feel great. So what? I can still be of service. It doesn't make much difference. I become less and less a consideration here. And more it's a thought of other people, no matter what's going on. See, with me? Okay, so, see, worry, see, take a look at worry in your life. See, when you worry, is it generally a self-centered activity? Can you see that? Have you, if you've never noticed it, it's something that you might start to notice if you find yourself worrying. It kind of blew me away, because I had always thought that my mind worked with beginnings, middles, and ends, like fairy tales. It would start and then have a middle and then an end. But I noticed that when I would get all caught up in worry and that sort of stuff, it was a lot like an 8-track tape recorder. Remember those? Back in the 70s? You put the tape in and it would never stop unless you turned it off. See, it just goes to the next track, see, and then it drops down and goes to the next track, and then it goes back to the first track, and then see, and it just repeats that over and over and over and over and over again. See, and it just never stops. See, there's no beginning, middle, or end to it. See, even though it looks like it if you just listen to a part of it. And I began to notice my mind worked pretty much like an 8-track tape recorder when I was all caught up in anxiety and worry and all that sort of stuff. It was just this endless loop. And there was no way out of that except to do this and go be of service to somebody. See? And it would stop. Okay, see, so just notice that if you find yourself caught up in the worry and the remorse and the morbid reflection. See, morbid reflecting is morbid reflecting on who, where. Who or what is getting reflected about in morbid reflection? Yeah, ourselves in our circumstances. And it turns into depression and all kinds of evil spirits come out of that. Okay, so we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. And there's another way. So just look at your own experience. When you got that going on, how much service can you be? How effective are you? What do you learn? Is there any spiritual growth that goes on? Okay. Is there anything useful that comes out of worry, remorse, and morbid reflection? Okay. So we need to start treating those things like character defects and shortcomings. And just admit that we're powerless over them when we have them. Ask God to remove it, and then take action on being of service to somebody. Okay, after making our review, see, not before making our review, and not without making a review. Okay, see, so it doesn't just say we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. This all hooks together. So after making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire of whom, what corrective measures should be taken. See, what could I do better? I need more direction, I need more whatever I need. See, so I don't keep repeating the same stuff over and over and over. So I don't keep balking over and over and over. So I don't keep being dishonest about whatever it is over and over and over. See, what are the, what is that I need to do? See, to get over this hump or that hurdle or past this obstacle or whatever it is that you find that's in your path. Okay. So then we go to sleep. Now, did anybody do that this week? That paragraph?
You talking about the one?
Yeah, sleep better?
I had wonderful dreams.
Yeah. See, instant results start. See, when you follow these directions, instant results start. See, and one of those generally is, a lot of us have problems sleeping. See, and we sleep better, see, as a result of doing this. Okay, so that's one of the, see, they don't give you a promise, well, you're going to sleep better. Anybody who does this immediately finds, hey, I sleep better at night. Okay, now, on awakening, see, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Now, if you did that, see, the thing at night, see, then the chances are you will sleep better. And then the chances are that on awakening, see, you're not going to find your mind like a crab on your face going, ah! First thing in the morning.
Crab on the other side.
Okay, see, which then gives you a little more room to do the next paragraph. See, you're a lot more likely to do the morning thing if you did the night thing at night. See, does that make sense? See, so it's all very logical the way they've set it up here. So on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day, whatever they are. Okay? Now, before we begin considering our plans for the day, what do? We say a prayer. And this is a very specific prayer and a very powerful prayer. Okay? And we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking, see, that it, meaning our thinking, be divorced from three things: self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Okay? Very powerful prayer. Okay? That prayer then gives you a little room during the day, okay, to follow the rest of the instructions. And so when we do that, it says under these conditions, see, what conditions? The divorcement, or the divorcing of selfish and dishonest motives, see, and our self-pity and that kind of stuff, which a lot of times we're not even aware of. Okay? So remember we talked last week about doing foresight instead of hindsight, because hindsight doesn't solve problems. Okay? We need to start, see, getting spirituality, see, God's direction into our day before we get into the day and start screwing it up. Okay, see, so this is the very beginning of it. So under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Okay, see, so you'll hear that, God gave us brains to use, quoted in AA meetings, out of context, quite often. And, well, God gave you brains to use. No, see, but they never say, well, that's step 11, and it's right in the middle of a paragraph having to do with some specific directions for how you go about doing these things.
I think the original manuscript made reference to common sense as opposed to brains. There's a lot of stress about using common sense in dealing with these issues.
I don't recall that, but that makes sense. If you remember, in Bill's story, remember, common sense doesn't be called, or become uncommon sense. See, for an alcoholic, this is common sense. See, why? Because it works. Just because it works. Okay, our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane. So all you think back to your fourth step and your sex inventory and whatever, showed up there. See, where's your thought life been? See, what plane? See, mine kind of was down there with the amoebas, and, walking around in life's muck. That's where my thought plane was. So, an inch of altitude for me was a much higher plane. Okay, so our thought life will be placed in a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Okay, see, so, I hope everybody's, really beginning to grasp the idea that this clearing needs to occur before the actions of the day start. And how, we've all spent so much time, looking for wrong motives after we did it again. See, what were your motives? Well, check your motives, da-da-da. It's too late. It's too late at that point. See, we have to do something about the motives before we do things, see, not after we do things. So our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Okay, see, so that the paragraph is very important. This is what gets done in the morning. See, now they're going to give us some instructions for, going through the day. This is all part of step 11. See, remember, we do this in all of our affairs. We practice these principles in all of our affairs. Okay, so in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. So anybody found themselves in indecision ever in your life? Okay. Here means where? Indecision. Okay. We ask God for inspiration, okay, an intuitive thought or a decision, a specific prayer about a specific indecisive point in our life. I don't know which blouse to buy. See, I don't know what to fix for dinner. I don't know what to do with this kid doing what that kid's doing. See, I don't know what to do in this meeting where everybody seems to be screwed up. See, I don't know what to do. Okay? And every time you get one of those hears, see, then you do this. We ask God for inspiration, literally. See, an intuitive thought or a decision. See, so see, we all face these decision points in our life, see, and the decision, see, it's a one-size-fits-all thing. See, we can choose to run on self-will, or we can choose to do God's will. See, and they're showing us right here how to choose to do God's will in every affair of our life. So this is something that we need to practice, see, and to put into operation in our life. See, so here, do you see any connection between this and step 3?
You're doing what you said you do.
Right. Putting step, literally at this point. So you're taking step 3 and doing it all day, every day. Everywhere. See, you're not clear. See, very specific instructions. Okay, so here we ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or a decision. Okay, so we relax and take it easy after we say that prayer. No. We bounce off walls and call our sponsor. No. So we relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. See how much struggle goes on with you. Okay. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for once, a while. Okay, so does that sound like it may take a little work? See, if we have the proper attitude and work at it. See, so ask yourself, looking at this, what's your attitude about this? Are you open-minded to this? Are you closed-minded to this? See, are you willing to try this? Are you unwilling? See, all you got to do is check what's going on with you. See, it doesn't need to be complicated. So just look at whatever's going on in you about this. Okay? If we have the proper attitude. Yeah?
Doesn't it sound like a meditation to you?
Does it?
Yes.
Yep. What step are we on? You're often. Remember we were talking about that at the end of the meeting the other night? We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. See, so instead of going into long, involved dissertations about prayer and meditation, see, what it is just a practical way to get started praying and meditating. See, without lots of why daddies and the cosmic questions and, what are the 7 layers of the cosmos and the 14 things and, all this kind of stuff. Who cares? See, this is just practical stuff. Okay, so we're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. See, so, you got to just know that going in, see, that this is not something that you pick up instantly. See, but what we all find once we put some effort into this and begin to follow the directions is that things begin to change. See, simply as a result of doing this. See, and they generally don't happen the way we think they're going to happen. See, we all pretty much have ideas about prayer and meditation and God's will and all that. See, and our ideas get us looking this direction. And there's always this hand tapping you on the shoulder over here. He's saying, oops, here's the answer. Okay? Sometimes it's hard to see the answer because we're expecting something to happen over there. Okay? But it's happening right next to you. You're right where you are. Okay, top page 87. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration, gradually, what's gradually mean? Becomes a working part of the mind. Whose mind? each of us individually. See, we're not talking about Bill Wilson's mind or Dr. Bob's mind, see, or Clarence's mind or Marty Mann's mind. See, we're talking about our mind. Okay, see now God's inspiration and direction has entered into somebody's mind. See, it'd be pretty hard to say that's an insane mind. See, and if this was really a working part of your mind, see, you'd get pretty sane pretty fast. See, and you get pretty clear about things pretty quick. Does that make sense to you? See? But it takes work to get, see, from where we are at this point to this. See? And it's just a matter of practice, see, and willing. Okay? So what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. See, this is a reality. Remember they used the term over on page 85 about developing this vital sixth sense? Okay? See, and it is vital, see, and it's part of being restored to sanity. It's part of the promises becoming an ongoing reality in our lives. It's part of spiritual growth. Okay, being still inexperienced. See, we all have a lot of experiences with a lot of things in life. See, drinking and drugs and sex and families and revenge and all the things that showed up on our fourth and fifth set. See, but when it comes to this, see, we're all pretty inexperienced. It's like riding a bicycle, training wheels. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Okay, now, one of the things I learned about this was just to be willing to test out my absurd actions and ideas, because they didn't seem to go away until I did. See, one of my absurd actions and ideas when I was learning this was a thought that I had always wondered about. See, whether it's possible for a real spiritual guy like myself to manifest money out of thin air. See, could it be done, see, once you have conscious contact with God? And I would say, that's ridiculous. See, and I'd shove that thought away and it'd come back, and shove it away and it'd come back. And this went on for a couple of weeks, so finally I just said, well, the hell with it, I'm going to try it. See? So I put my hands out and I was trying to manifest, $5 bills. See, and I felt like an idiot. See? And it wasn't a feeling, it was a fact. See, I was there being an idiot with an absurd action and an idea that I couldn't shake. See, but once I was willing to do it and just feel the ridiculousness of what I was trying to do, see, it has never come back. It's never been a problem ever since then. See, so there are lots of ways that this particular thing, see, might manifest itself in your thinking. See, and a lot of my old ideas came up about spiritual things and a lot of that. See, so I just put them all to the test. I just decided I'd stop being embarrassed about it and I would just do it and see what happened. And, I learned as a result of doing it. Okay, there are other ways that this happens, and this is especially critical. I hope everybody's beginning to understand, see how, in order to be of real service to, especially to newcomers in Alcoholics Anonymous, see, we really do need God's guidance in the doing of that. See, and here is where we get it. See, here's where we're sitting there and talking to somebody and working with them and praying for, see, how do I help this guy? How do I help this lady? See, how am I going to do that? Okay, so, see, sometimes, see, you may really think that this is God's will. Here's what you ought to do. See, and check those. See, because sometimes they're absurd. Right? I think we talked a little bit last week about fear of making mistakes. And, that was one of my big fears, especially in working with others. And what I noticed is as long as I was sincerely doing this, and continuing to take my inventory on what worked and what didn't work, the mistakes that I made got cleaned up, see, without me doing anything about that. So I had to make whatever amends I needed to make. But, the things that I said and did while I was learning to do what I can do now didn't harm other people. See, and that to me was one of the most amazing demonstrations of the power of God in a human being's life that I have ever come across. So that's pretty neat. So I just want to keep reiterating that, see, that don't be afraid to make mistakes. See, if I just adopted an attitude that if I'm going to make a mistake, I would rather make a mistake in the area of trying to be of service to somebody rather than not doing anything. Okay? I'd rather go overboard in the area of service and be wrong than to be somebody who didn't do anything at all. Okay? See, and just by operating that way, I did make mistakes, but they all seemed to work out pretty good. Then I didn't have to walk around feeling guilty. Yeah.
Something that's helped me always was your example of the vacuum sweeper. I just prayed for a vacuum sweeper all along the night.
Cool.
That's helped me always.
Okay, well, we might pay for this presumption in all sorts of observed actions and ideas. So, anybody had any of that? Observed? Nothing anybody got to.
It might have been absurd in the area of not believing. Exactly the opposite of doubting what I've seen.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, this can come up in many, many different forms. So, is this...
Just something like that. I didn't want to use somebody else. I'll tell you what, other examples?
Not right offhand, I can't. Okay, nevertheless, we find. How do people find things? Gotta look. Okay. So we find that our thinking will, as time passes, see, so notice they said that 3 times. See, after we tried it for a while, gradually, see, we're not going to be inspired at all times. See, as time passes, see, it will be more and more on the plane of inspiration. And if you think back to page 63 where it says we become less and less interested in ourselves and more, see, interested in what we can do for other people. Okay, so we come to rely upon it. See, so it is the inspiration of God working, see, in our thinking at this point. See, and this is really where we get direction and purpose, and where, if you remember, back in step 9, it talked about we're trying to grow in understanding and effectiveness. See, all that sort of stuff. See, you got to use your mind to do that. A lot of newcomers have this idea that their mind is somehow going to get removed by God. See, as a result of the steps, we're getting insanity, disease removed, not our mind. You got to have your mind. You got a body and a mind, and there they are. See, that's what you need. Okay. Next paragraph says, we usually conclude the period of what? Okay. Notice how on top page 86, they said they were going to make some definite and valuable suggestions about prayer. Okay. And so they make these definite and valuable suggestions about prayer, and this thing has happened all of a sudden. We've concluded the period of meditation. Okay. With a what? Prayer. So we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer. Now what's the prayer? See, this is a very specific prayer. See, it doesn't say the Our Father, see, or the Serenity Prayer, or anything else. See, this is a very specific kind of a prayer. Okay, so we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer. Now, here's the prayer. That we be shown all through the day. That we be shown. Demonstrate. See, make it apparent. All through the day, what our next step is to be. Okay? So that's one step at a time, all the way through the day, in each and every affair. Okay? Start looking at that. Okay? See, that's a pretty amazing thing. See? What do I do now? 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 Now what do I do? What do I do now? See, that's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. See? And it means exactly what it says. See, nobody does this perfectly. But, see, I mean, it really does mean what it says there. Okay, and this is something that we need to become aware of.
Welcome.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. See, this copy over here. Just
Grab some coffee, sit down. We're on page 87.
Okay. Copies right over here.
Liz? Liz? You could share what you brought up Friday about praying for your lives? Yeah.
Praying for you live. Oh, yeah, I get to do that. I don't know. It seemed to flow so much easier the other way.
Pray about this.
What?
Ask God to remove whatever pride and fear
I
you
know,
got.
right now, I
Right
have
now.
like blank.
Yeah. Okay, rely on God for that.
Well, the prayer was very specific because all my life I've viewed men and women a certain way. And so I asked to have my vision of the way I see men and women changed instead of seeing it the way I see people in a certain category, to see people with God's eyes instead of mine.
I think that's great. That fits right in with what we're talking about, Sam. Notice that this is a two-part prayer. So it says, we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. Okay? And then the second half of that is that we be given whatever we need. See, to do what? Take care of such problems. So everybody see the two parts to that? So we say a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. Notice how, in order for this to work, that thing that we saw over on page 86 about was the first prayer, asking God to remove self-pity, selfish and dishonest motives. See, how that would have to occur before this prayer, see, could work. Because what would likely be what we would pray for over here on page 87 if we didn't say the prayer over on page 86. See, this would all be selfish stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, so they're going to give you a little caveat in the next couple of sentences here about that. Okay, so we ask that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, and that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. Now, the thing that Liz was just sharing, see, was she noticed a problem. Okay, and what was that prayer about? Given what she needed to take care of that problem. I'm not seeing this right. Okay, I need a new way of seeing. You know, what was it, men and women? Great. Okay, take your inventory. You notice something. I got a problem. Okay, I'm not looking at this right. I need a new way of looking at it. Specific prayer. Don't be shy about this matter of prayer. So we're not just talking about material things, you know. I need the rent money and I need to clean the bathroom and I need, you know, that. See, those things, see, are included in this, but there's this other stuff having to do with, you know, your spiritual growth and clarity of your thinking and confusion and stuff like that. So I used to say lots and lots of prayers asking for clarity. See, just to become clear on what it was that was going on, say, at particular points. Pray for understanding. And I'd be given whatever I needed. And sometimes that would come in the form of somebody talking to me. Sometimes somebody would walk up and hand me a book, say, read this, and I'd read that, and it would start to clear something up. There's lots of ways that these things get answered. See, but you got to ask. You got to rely on God, and it's got to be unselfish, and that's what all this is about. See, and this is how your life turns into a meditation. Okay, so is everybody beginning to see how this all hooks together? Step 10, 11, 12. How step 1 through 9 is a preparation for doing all that. Okay, next sentence. It says, we ask especially, see, now notice they're going to mention what we saw over on page 86 again. See, we ask especially, remember that word was over there too? Especially for freedom from self-will. See, and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. So, we may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. Now, here's my version of that. I used to say prayers like this: God, grant me a Cadillac convertible. See, because I want to take Betty and Shirley and Liz and Joe to a meeting. It was, all that kind of weird bargain kind of selfish stuff. See, that's the kind of prayers I would say. Then I'd have to take my inventory on the prayers I was saying. See? And then I would have to ask what corrective measures needed to be taken about the prayers I was saying. See, it's all a learning process. Okay. See, so it says we may ask for ourselves, however, if, and this is the requirement, it's a pretty big if, others will be helped. Okay. See, so one of the things that crops up in most people as we go along here is, you start to get this idea that it's selfish to want to be free of your character defects. See, isn't it selfish of me, see, to want to have my guilt removed? Anybody had that kind of stuff come up? See, this is selfish. See, well, see, do character defects and shortcomings and all that get in the way of being of service to others? See, is it selfish to make amends? Or is service done? See, are those things really selfish? See, is to be happy and guilt-free and that kind of stuff, is that really selfish if in that condition, see, you can literally save somebody else's life? See, and maybe a whole lot of other somebody's. Okay, so it's just something to notice that, if that pops up in here, see, that, hey, it's selfish to want this for myself. It's selfish to be seeking these things for myself. See, is it really? See, it's just something to be honest about. Is it really? If you turn your will and your life over to God, see, and you need to be a demonstration and have a clear message to carry to somebody else so you can help them, is that selfish? So we may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. See, we have asked a lot of things for ourselves up to this point, haven't we? We've asked God to relieve us of our alcoholism. We've asked God to remove our anger. We've asked God to remove our fear. We've asked God to remove all this sex stuff. Okay? And we took a look at our character defects and our shortcomings, and we started asking God to remove those. That's a lot of asking. Okay? But everywhere along the line, see, weren't we doing that so that we could be of some more service? Okay? And have you noticed that you are of more service? Okay. Is it unselfish? It's this weird kind of thing that happens. Okay? But if you end up being of more service and more able to do unselfish things as a result of this, okay, is it truly a selfish thing, or is it an unselfish thing? Is it a selfish thing to go through the work involved in the steps? How many people actually do it? People who are truly selfish don't seem to be willing to do it. It's just some things you can start looking at if you have, stuff going on about that. Okay, so we may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Are you careful about that? Are you getting more careful about that? See, it took me a while to get careful about that. So something you can notice, we talked about it once before, but if you find yourself praying for something and your prayers don't seem to get answered, you're not getting results and all that, see, what I would do automatically is start questioning God. What's wrong? I don't know, God's not working here. See, and what I had to learn how to do was question me and my prayers and the motive behind the prayer. See, stop questioning the power of God and start questioning the selfishness of the prayer that's getting said. Okay, so So just, if you notice you hit a glitch or, prayer isn't working for you, so you start questioning that.
What I find is that I spend an awful lot of time, every time I say a prayer, I go back and, review the whys and the wherefores. And that's one of the principal flag points for my character defects that need to be removed. So I end up praying something, clawing out my spiritual eraser, saying, no, you don't believe that, God.
Right.
And then I prayed to have the character defect which generated the selfish prayer report.
Cool. Yeah, I've sent a few mailgrams trying to intercept selfish prayers. Hope they beat them.
Dear God, please ignore the prayer. You'll be getting regular mail.
We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it really is a waste of time. That's been my experience. So I've tried it in a lot of ways. I got into some really nifty bargaining and negotiating sessions with God in my prayers and stuff. Never worked. It's really a bitch to realize that God holds all the chips, and to accept that. It just really. So I wasted a lot of time trying to get a few chips for myself. Never worked. Okay, many of us waste a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. So all you got to do is look at your own experience and just see if it works or if it doesn't work. You really don't need to read a book about whether it works or not. See, just look back on our praying careers and see what happened. It says you can easily see why. See, but it's just, remember the line on page 31 when we were learning about alcoholism? It says you can quickly diagnose yourself, but you got to be honest about it in order for that to occur. See, step one is really a piece of cake, so it can be done quickly. Anybody who's honest. See, well, here you can easily see why selfish prayers don't work, but you'd have to be honest with yourself about it. See, these are not things that take 16 volumes of Thomas Aquinas to understand. See, all we got to do is look at our own experience, and it is easy to see why selfish prayer doesn't work. Okay, now you may have some experience of new age kind of stuff that's out there in the world. That all it is selfishness with this patina of spirituality wrapped around it. Having to do with me and getting what I want, and legitimized greed and spiritual greed, and it can be called abundance, and it can be called all kinds of stuff. See, and we are sure that God wants us to have this, and there's always pictures of cornucopias of cars and shit rolling out on people and money, and see, all that. Does that sound greedy to you? Selfish? And all that sort of stuff. And so if you've been into that and it didn't work for you, see, you can easily see why. But it's big business. See, and there's an awful lot of it out there in the world these days. And it's, it has a lot of names. It's New Age, it's this, it's that. See, but you can easily see why it doesn't work. It's all, kind of comes out of the Reverend Ike school of spirituality. Anybody remember Reverend Ike? Okay. I think maybe this. Did you guys bring your 12 and 12s? Okay, why don't you go get it? This is probably a good place to look at one thing in the 12 and 12. This paragraph in, I stopped one paragraph too soon. Go back to the big book on page 87. And then we'll do the 12 and 12. Okay. Got everybody yanked around here.
Yeah, right.
Funny thing about my 12 and 12, page 98 is works with a piece of tape. That's what we're at.
Okay. It says if circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. So does this sound like we're doing things in secret? Closet spirituality? Okay. See, but this is only if circumstances warrant. See, if you're catching a lot of flack from people in your house and all that, probably better not to do that. Okay. Friends of mine up in Sacramento, they got their kids doing these things with them now. Taking their inventory and meditating and praying, all that stuff. See, and it's working. Okay, so if it warrants, see, we ask our wives or friends or husbands, whatever, to join us, morning meditation. Okay, if we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, see, like Hindu or, something like that. We attend to that also. You climb up on the top of the roof, and shout towards the east. Okay. If not members of religious bodies. See, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. See, so notice they have given us some very clear-cut things to do. See, and then in this paragraph, see, they're saying be open-minded, see, and start looking. Okay, so the things that we have seen in step 11, see, are clear-cut directions which work, which get us started, which will produce results. See, and they are also saying now be open-minded about this. Okay, and start, like doing a little exploration and looking around. Okay, see, do a little sniffing. Okay, if not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. See, so this is done, see, with an open mind and with purpose and not ignorant. See, know what you're doing. See, you can push on this a little bit. See, do it with an open mind, experiment, whatever you want to do. See, but we're looking for growth, so they've given us a good foundation for some things to do which will work, and some direction here about this. Okay, it says there are many helpful books also, thousands of them. See, literally thousands of them. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Okay, now here is a very important sentence. Be quick, see, to see where religious people are what?
Right.
Right, okay. Now, see, what's the opposite of that?
Taking their inventory.
Yeah, take their inventory and find out where they're wrong. See, and all my life, that's what I've done. See, I've gone around, it's been my purpose to smoke out the hypocrites and to find out where people are wrong. Okay, and as soon as I catch them in one mistake, then I start beating them up with that. See, now this interesting thing occurs if you're willing to take this one sentence. See, apply it not only to this, apply it everywhere in your life. See, if we are open-minded enough to look for where everybody is right, where they're wrong will turn on like a neon sign. You will know immediately where they're wrong if you look for where they're right. See, this is the most magical little piece of advice in the book as far as I'm concerned. You apply it everywhere in your life. See, but be quick, see, especially to see where religious people are right. You may not agree with everything they say, see, but you can learn. See, and if you can take this thing with an open mind, see, you find that everybody becomes your teacher. And if you need, see, humble people realize that they need to be taught. Okay, see, so if you realize you got enough humility to realize that you need to be taught, and the whole world is going to teach you, see, that's pretty cool. See, and all you got to do is find out what every person that you come across has to teach you. See, be quick to see where they're right, where they're wrong. Won't bother you at all because you'll see it, but you won't. See, you'll be able to tell the truth from the false. See, this is a whole new attitude for a lot of us. Okay, which is why we're going to read this thing in the 12 and 12. So the last sentence there says, make use of what they offer. Okay, what does make use mean? Yeah. Right, see, in other words, don't stop here, see, in the area of prayer and meditation. See, be open-minded and do some exploring and, see, make use of, see, things and be quick to see where they're right. See, and that's how you'll grow and learn. See, and it can be a pretty accelerated. You can get a PhD in this stuff pretty quick. See, if you got an open mind. See, and do some work in it. Okay, see, so this is that is one of the definite and valuable suggestions about prayer and meditation that they talked about at the top of page 86. See, is to be open-minded. See, and make use of what you see and what's offered to you in the world. See, and If it works, great. If it doesn't, now you've learned something valuable. Okay, so that's very important stuff right there. Okay, now, because of where it says, be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they have to offer. If you would, go to page 98 and 12 and 12 now. Okay, once again, I'd like to suggest that everybody, start to do some serious reading in the 12 and 12. Start taking these things apart. Okay, but we're just going to read these 2 pages, or 1 page and paragraph. So go to the bottom of 98. Bill's saying that the actual experience of meditation and prayer across the centuries is, of course, immense. The world's libraries and places of worship are a treasure trove for what?
All seekers.
Seekers of what?
Spiritual.
Yeah, God. Yeah. Treasure trove for all seekers. Okay? It is to be hoped that every AA who has a religious connection which emphasizes meditation will return to the practice of that devotion as never before. Okay? But what about the rest of us who, less fortunate, don't even know how to begin? Okay? Well, we might start like this. First, let's look at a really good prayer. 3 great ones. This is a really good prayer. Not a sort of good. This is a really good prayer. Okay, we won't have far to seek. The great men and women of all religions have left us a wonderful supply of what? Prayers. Okay, and forms of meditation. Okay, here let us consider one that is a classic. Okay, its author was a man who for several hundred years now has been rated as a saint. We won't be biased or scared off by that fact. Why not? Because although he was not an alcoholic, he did, like us, go through the emotional wringer. And as he came out the other side of that painful experience, this prayer was his expression of what he could then see, feel, and what are the last 3 words? See, wishing to become something, implies growth. It doesn't imply perfection. Okay, so here's the prayer. This is called the St. Francis Prayer. Okay, everybody heard this? Please? All right. So, first word of most prayers is an address. See, so it's God or Lord. See, make me, remember step 3? Build with me and do with me. Make me a channel of thy peace. That where there is hatred, I may bring love. See, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. That where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted. See, who cares about me? Let me do something for somebody else. Unselfishness. To understand rather than to be understood. See, someone to love and understand me, see, instead of me going out and loving and understanding somebody else. Okay, see? So it says to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting, see, that one does what? See, so if we're sitting around worried about how we're doing, we're not being very self-forgetting. See, we're just dwelling in ourselves. It's by self-forgetting. See, who cares what's going on with me? Well, show me how to be of service, regardless of what's going on with me. Okay. And it's by doing that that one finds. One finds what? Love, understanding, peace, joy, all the stuff, see, that we had been looking for and trying to get from other people. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. Okay. That's either true or it's false. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. And it is by dying, see, and this is, self stuff, not physical stuff, see, that one awakens to eternal life. See, while dying in a spiritual sense, see, is the removal of selfishness and self-centeredness and character defects and shortcomings. See, that's what that means. So it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. Okay, now, what I want to ask you all to do is to take this prayer, anytime you want to do this, and write it out, but reverse it. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Go back to the beginning of the prayer. See, because this is my inventory when it's said in reverse. See, Lord, or, say alcohol, I want to be a channel of hatred. See, that where there is love, that's what I brought. See, that where there was forgiveness, I brought wrong. See, that where harmony existed, I always brought discord. See, that where truth existed, I brought error into that situation, introduced it. See, that where people had faith, I brought doubt. People who had hope, I brought despair. That where there was some light, I brought shadows. See, this was the tornado of me going in people's lives. Okay? That where there was joy, I brought them sadness. See, I seem to have a real gift for doing stuff like that. See, I always sought to be comforted rather than comfort anybody. I always sought to be understood rather than to understand anything, including myself or anybody else. I was always wanting to be loved. They don't love me for who I am. If they just love me for who I am and accepted me the way that I am, then everything would be all right. I never sought to learn how to love anybody else. I always wanted a friend. I never wanted to be one. All that kind of stuff. It is for forgiving that one. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. Say, well, I wanted people to forgive me, but I never forgave anybody. I've never been able to forgive and forget. Okay, so all of that stuff. See, so take that, write that out backwards. See, can you see yourself in it that way? So you take that, you flip this thing over. It's a life turned over. It's literally what it is. The best description of a turned over will and life that I've ever seen. Because you can take the whole prayer, turn it around backwards, and there is me. Okay, so this is expressing, an ideal of spiritual growth that we want to achieve. See, it's not the Our Father to be said on, just to be saying a prayer. See, it really has meaning. It's about change and spiritual growth and the removal of the things that are blocking us from it, and some direction and purpose in it, which is a pretty amazing prayer.
In the last part of 9, talking about self-will being put kind of rest, so to speak.
Well, you can say it that way, sure. It's not physical dying we're talking about. Okay, let's, you want to take a break and then we've got not a whole lot more to go here. As a result of doing this stuff is that you find yourself becoming more and more open-minded, and things start to happen, and just take advantage of whatever opportunities are placed in your lap as a result of that. There may be some form of meditation that in God's plan is perfect for everybody in this room, and it might all be different kinds of things. See, so just be open to that. Take your inventory on the need to learn more about these things, and to be instructed in them, and to put them into practice and all that kind of stuff. See where you are with those kind of things, and the more you do that, the more you practice this, the more of that stuff starts to happen. See, and sometimes what would happen to me is that things would be put in my life, and I would have this, I don't want to do that, that doesn't look like it's useful, kind of an attitude towards it. See, but it was there for a reason. See, and a lot of times the reason was to do it, whatever it was, and to learn what it was and why it didn't work for me. Okay, and then, see, I could make this clear. This not only happens in terms of our own spiritual growth, meditation, it happens in terms of working with others. You'll be learning something in some area, could be meditation, it could be prayer, it could be in working with somebody who's very, very difficult to work with, something like that. And what you will see later on as a result of that, there will be some situation downstream where you'll see that you needed the experience of learning whatever you learned here in order to be of service to somebody down here that you don't know about yet. Okay? And you'll find that you can't be of service to this person because you didn't do this thing. Okay? So that'll become apparent. Okay? And so, if you just, if things get presented to you, even if you have this sort of thing, take your inventory on it and be open-minded. And you'll begin to see that experience happen. And you'll see that, there is a definite plan going on. See, it's like God sees way down over the horizon somewhere, things that we can't see. See, and knows that, see, if you get over there and you don't know this item right here, then you can't be of service to that person down over there. See, that kind of stuff. So a lot of what you learn, see, is really being learned for other people, to give it to them, give your experience of it to them when you run into them. Okay, see, and so sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the time it's going on, see, but it becomes very valuable downstream. So you begin to see, as you have some experience of that, you begin to see that God is working in your life in a lot of ways, see, that you could never have anticipated. And it's very important to be open-minded. Remember when we read step 6, when we started this book study, in the 12 and 12, Bill said that this is a brand new venture into open-mindedness. See, and that's part of it. See, to realize a lot of things that we learn, see, literally you're learning them because of somebody you're going to meet or somebody that you need to be of service to somewhere down the line. It might not be for a while. See, so just keep that in mind as you go along. Okay, bottom page 87. Okay, so notice how this step 11 thing is a lot like step 10. See, it's an all day, every day, all of our affairs, down to the gnat's ass, see, kind of thing. Okay, so as we go through the day, we go nuts and bounce off walls. What does pause mean? We pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or decision. So you go directly across to the bottom page 86. What's it say right over there? We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. So we ask God. See, so they're literally saying the same thing. See, as we're going through the day, so we pause and we ask God, see, for direction. And we just keep doing this. We keep practicing it. See, for the right thought or action. See, we constantly, what's constantly mean? Yeah, remind who? Ourselves. So we constantly remind ourselves that we are no longer running the show. Oh yeah? Says who? I want what I want. Okay, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day. See? So does that sound like something that's a one time and you're done? Many times each day, thy will be done. Okay. Remember the 10th step prayer over there, thy will, not mine, be done? See, we're repeating it again here. Saying to ourselves many times during the day, thy will be done, not mine. I'm agitated, I'm doubtful, I'm indecisive, I'm pissed, I'm afraid, I'm selfish, I'm resentful. See, I'm all this stuff. See, thy will be done. So you take your own inventory. Okay, we are then in much less danger of, see, now they're going to mention 6 things, see, which some of us are junkies for. Okay. See, so we're in much less danger of, number 1 is excitement. Okay? A lot of us really like excitement. See, but you got to look and see whether excitement, see, literally can be a dangerous thing for you. See, everybody know the term crisis junkie and all that stuff that gets used in meetings all the time. See, got to have excitement going on all the time. See, that sort of stuff. See, have you ever noticed little kids, if you're going to take them somewhere like Disneyland on Sunday and you tell them on Friday, see, what happens between Friday and Sunday? Life's hell. Is it time yet? See, why? See, you get them excited. See, and once they get excited, they get, pretty much out of control. See, and it's an ongoing thing. See, so, most parents learn after a while, not to tell them until, Sunday morning. See, and you try to kind of keep that stuff to yourself. See, why? Because you go through all this stuff once you get them excited. See, it's a real problem. See, so take that, look at your own experience, see, about excitement, see, and how we get into that, get all wrapped up in it, see, and see if in periods of excitement, see, you find that you make foolish decisions and get in collisions, and, see, all kinds of stuff goes on in your life. So you just look at your own experience, see, back through life about that. I'd like to suggest that one more time, you go to the dictionary, look up these 4 things. Excitement are these 6 things, excitement being one of them. Find out exactly what that is and how it applies in your life. Is it really as much fun as you always thought it was? All that. Is there danger involved? Is an excited person serene? Is an excited person calm? Is an excited person clear thinking? Does it seem to you that sometimes there can be a pretty fine line between excitement and panic? Stuff like that. See where you are with that. So we're then in much less danger of excitement, fear. What have we been talking a lot about since step 4? Fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. Ever notice how much people in meetings talk about the decisions that they've made that didn't work out? See? And it always starts with, I thought, see, da-da-da-da-da would work. I thought God wanted da-da-da-da-da to happen. See, I thought that wouldn't happen again. I thought. See, but one more time, foolish decision. See, what does that show you about the decisions they make? What are they relying on?
So,
Yeah. See, remember the term out of chapter 4? Actually, we were fooling ourselves. So we were deep down in every man, woman, and child. See, is this experience of God? See, we can either choose, see, to have God, see, provide us with the inspiration and the direction in our life, or we can do this. See, but if you stay in a situation of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions, see, it's like an arrow. It's like that, go to jail square on the Monopoly game. See, go directly to page 52, do not pass, go. Okay, and then, see, just following that, see, first they say what's dangerous as a result of not following these directions. See, and then if we do follow the direction, here is a pretty major promise. It says we become much more efficient. See, and I have seen that really work in my life. I'm a lot more efficient now than I ever was back in the days when I was a workaholic kind of a guy, back in the 70s, all that sort of stuff. See, so, it is really amazing, see, what can be accomplished in a human being's life, and you may begin to have had some experience of that already. See, living days that seem to be rather full of service and all kinds of stuff, just kind of like amazed at everything that happened during one given day. And I can do more stuff in one day now, see, than I would do in 10 years in terms of being of service to other people before. See, much more efficient. See? So there's another word to look up, is efficient. Okay, more promise. We do not tire so easily. And it's really an amazing thing, is that you can get tired, but it's not this same stressed out kind of thing that most of us have lived in all of our life. We don't get that way so easily. for we are not burning up energy. How? Foolishly. See? So they're beginning to try to give us the idea, see, that now that we know what we know, see, if we're going to continue to do what we did instead of following a new set of instructions that work, see, then this tends to be kind of foolish. Not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. Remember page 1661? That actor. Self-seeking, kind, modest, gracious, mean, selfish, dishonest, all that. Okay, then let's see, a statement of fact. It works, it really does. See, but what does it mean? Yeah, see, it refers to everything, see, we've learned up to this point, okay, which is the first 11 steps. It works, it really does. See, but how would anybody ever find that out? Yeah, have to do it. See, first you got to learn about it, and then you have to actually do it, see, and see, and then you know. Okay, so it works, it really does. See, so all they're doing is passing along their experience. See, none of them made up any of this stuff. It's not something that they thought up on their own. Okay, now it says, we alcoholics are undisciplined. Here's one where we all go, not me. Okay, so just close your eyes. And when you hear the word discipline, what picture comes into your mind? What does discipline mean to you?
Not whacking me over the butt.
Yeah, that was always my picture of the word discipline too. Anybody else? Do you have discipline equated with punishment? Pretty much?
Control.
Yeah, or being controlled or managed, see, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so yeah, discipline comes from the word disciple. See, and the word disciple means one who voluntarily follows a path. See, isn't forced. That's what a disciple is. See, is one who is following a path, not a person. See, when you get it all wrapped up in personality, see, then it's all this guru kind of stuff. See, but a disciple is simply one who follows a path and does that voluntarily. And it's the ultimate path. See, I mean, you must at that point be disciplined to do that. To stay on the path. So, okay, you know, look at your own life. See, what path have you been on first? Has it been a disciplined path? That's what a disciple is up to this point. What remember in chapter 4, we call it the dubious path. You go back to the third line of this page. Dubious path is filled with anxiety, fear, and anger, and worry, self-pity, and foolish decisions. And a good word that pretty much covers the lack of discipline is scattered. It might be in terms of these kind of things, so you have scattered. Remember in your life, scattered people tend to be shallow and dilettantes. You know, toes in the water kind of people never take one. The water waves that they want to holocaust. That's all part of the dubious path. There are real others being psychopaths and all that stuff. They making resolution decisions. Endless new beginnings, new things, never painting the endless non-finishing of stuff. The endless deadlines and pressure, all that sort of stuff. And all that is a result of the discipline. The pressure people can because we alcoholics are that way, and then discipline is the hyper way. And that's why there's going to be to me, this is more concept. But it was true. So you might look at your own experiences and see, you know, does it make you cringe about watching sexual discipline? And that's the evidence that there's a bunch of the top, I've ever experienced a lack of concentration and look at deadlines and pressure, all that. Just an inability to all that shows you a lack of discipline in life. And See, for me, was a big problem because I never accepted any less than ever. I have been to the will of my parents and people in authority like their needs and other places like bodies and stuff like that. I have resigned myself out of doing that because I had to do it. But I was never disciplined, and I never accepted that I did it for my. I have always been like this. If I had to do something I didn't want to do, I resented it terribly. And the more I had to do it, the more I had to do it. I never accepted that because it's any of that. Ever. So, I said, my way, the way the one of the people I went. I'm an alcoholic, that's just always been my attitude. But I was willing, because I'd taken the third step to accept God's system. God's path. That is the only way I could ever find anything to do so on my way. I was starting to accept that, so I don't understand that. I learned the instrument skills in practice so that I could see what I had was. Because I just never been able to say I am a human being with punishment, resignation, all that other stuff. I did it no way. So it's about you let God, because that's kind of the start where you go and do that. Is the questions that you can ask yourself. One way to any, the other way to the other. So you got to check it out for yourself. The art just that's clear to me. So we let God discipline us in the simple way of just out. That is the simple way of just out. Everything was just for humans. You love, but especially on that steps box, so I can't get all of that. So are you willing to let God do that? It takes honesty, open mindedness, and self-belief. Power of God. So he's seen the benefit in that. Do for you or anybody else. He's seen the service in it. So if you have trouble with it, just start seeing it. Your point of view, decide where would be service in it. And that might help you to accept it. Some of this is hard to swallow. Okay, so yeah, I like our things. You let God discipline us in the simple way we just outlined. If you do this, you really don't believe there's a God. We're accepted to do this. People who think God is true. It really doesn't make any sense. It's one of the reasons why I do not like to go through these chapters with people about it's an intellectual portion. You have one more self-help. Okay, but this is not all. What this previous two sentences would refer to the whole paragraph of the program. That's what it is not all. There's no graduation. There is what? Action and more action. We've just been through the chapter called Into Action. This is all about action. It's a lot of stuff to learn. It's stuff you got to swallow, digest, you got to try it, you got to take your inventory, you got to put it in, it's all about action. But that's not all. It's all action. It's not all. Okay, faith without words is 5 sentences. So the verbs are going to be described at the beginning of the verse anyway in the next chapter. Faith without words is that the next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Chapter 7 actually is only devoted to the middle part of step 12. Which is why I calculated the message down on all of that. That's what step 7 is. So going over to chapter 7. Going over to chapter 7 now. If you write this quote at the top. This is from Bob Dylan. How many times just doesn't see it. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And I'd like to, remember last week, we gave out those pamphlets and gave everybody a pamphlet on sponsorship. Please read that a couple times before we meet. Well, we can't meet next week. And so it's a week from this Friday. What we did last week was gave everybody one of the AA pamphlets on sponsorship. I thought it's, if you got a copy, if you don't have a copy, get a copy, read it over a couple of times.
Yeah, there's a good news. I'm not about sponsorship, I haven't read it.
This is the end of chapter interaction.
Becky, are you gonna do Friday night next Tuesday? Then if he's gonna be, are you gonna do the week from Friday